not work. Okay, they don't work in the dark. They don't work under a veil of secrecy. They haven't worked behind closed doors for our city at this point, and it has to be in the sunshine from the dais in town hall meetings like this, and it has to be contractual binding agreements, signed, dated, with assurances of certainty. Now, anything can be challenged, and you can go to court and fight over it, but you have to have those assurances and the certainties to even get to that level, or else you stand no choice. And here we are on this, controversial as anything would be in our downtown district when it comes to our city of Clearwater and the Church of Scientology, is South Garden Avenue. And in 2017, the city of Clearwater went into a land swapped property with the church so that they could have two full adjacent properties connecting to this South Garden piece. South Garden's in the middle, and they now own the full two pieces. Statutory laws allow them through development codes to then issue and go through the process of a vacation or right-of-way. Vacation or right-of-way is pretty common in our municipalities. It's nothing unique to Clearwater. Your Clearwater Beach was developed by a whole heck of a lot of right-of-ways. When developers buy chunks of property, there's often little roadways in between and in the way, and they have that right to ask for a vacation or right-of-way so they can put those properties together and create one development for the greater good or that thereof. 2017, after the property swap, church got their little piece on Fort Harrison and Court. City of Clearwater received its portion over of Nolan, which unfortunately I don't think we've done anything with as of now. That's a whole different issue. And they presented what they wanted in 2017 in a video at the time. It's changed as of today, but at the time in a video, presented that they wanted to build the L. Ron Hubbard Performing Arts Center. There was a small piece of park in the front of it. And it did show somewhat of a roadway, but South Garden wasn't in the same location. It wasn't South Garden anymore. It was a different type of valet drop-off kind of thing. So it changed, and that was part of the plan for them and for the city at the time in 2017. Fast forward today, 2025. So a year ago when we first, new council took office, there was already discussions before us between city leadership and the church on they wanted South Garden Avenue. Church leadership, elected officials kept saying, no, we need to see not just development, we need to see activation for the good of all the city. Church started working on 3 of its historic downtown properties: Telephone Building, People's Bank Building, World Work Building. What I've been told is $16 million is being spent on the reconditioning and redevelopment of those 3 buildings. Telephone Building is pretty much complete. They will have hopefully a tenant, from what I'm hearing, hopefully soon. I don't know when. But we'll hope to have a tenant in there on the ground floor of some sort of restaurant, deli type of thing, and retail offices on the top. No institutional building on the bottom. Second building to be done, as I'm understanding, will be the Worldworth Building. Looking for some sort of retail on the bottom. On the top, office space. People's Bank will be last on the corner. All 3, I did check before I came, all 3 of those properties are on LoopNet. LoopNet is the #1 listing for commercial real estate. LoopNet, you can currently look on there and see them. I did find them. I wanted to also see if there was prices or rent or what. None of the properties had that kind of stuff, so I couldn't see what's being, so I can't argue for or against that, but they are currently, but from what I'm told, within the next couple weeks, they hope they have an announcement of the activation of the Telephone Building, and that's that. With Garden, then, they came back and said, okay, look, we've got building and permits going here. This is what we're spending. How about a discussion of the vacation? Newly elected said no, not enough. Somebody wanted, and I can't, for own name, I don't know who it was. Somebody said, please take down the old Tequila's building that's an eyesore on the corner of Court Street and Fort Harrison, the old Mexican restaurant. They moved Tequila's years ago. they own that. It was kind of dilapidating, falling apart. Those of you that go to and from the beach, it's hard to not see it across from our courthouse. Supposedly a week, 10 days later, tequilas came down, landscape, and some trees. I've been told that it's somewhere around $200,000 to $300,000. I don't know what the cost is. It's not about the money. It's more the actions of movement forward downtown. That was done. Church came back and asked the council, can we put this vacation or right away through? And they have the ability, and they put it through. Staff has to respond. That's their duty. Staff took the request, sat down with all of council and said, they've asked for the vacation of the right-of-way. Would you like me to enter discussions? And all 5 council members said, yes, let's see what a discussion looks like. Staff went away, read the charter, and the charter stipulates that because there's some sort of economic value to that road, we currently have car parking spaces on that road. We make anywhere from $25,000 to $30,000 a year in parking. So it does have, that road does have a value to it, and that's about what the value is. Sometimes lower, but no higher than 30. Because of that, the pathway the charter stipulates that you'd have to go is it cannot be vacated. It must have attached to it a real estate contract for an appraised value or a real estate swap, property swap, just like that happened in 2017. So two appraisals were done. 1.8 million, 940 some $1,000 came back as the highest and best use appraisal because the church owns both adjoining properties. The average price came out to 1.375. City manager came back to us, all of council, and said 1.375. Do you want to sell it to the church and vacate? All 5 council members said no. It's not about the money. It's about development and activation and acquisition for all the Clearwater citizens in somehow, some way. Should I continue any sort of negotiations? Council unanimously, all 5 said, you may proceed. Give her that leeway to move forward. She has to have that direction. All 5 gave her the leeway to move forward. So it's a dollar amount, yes, but, and the but is where council started coming off the rails and differing a little bit in the levels of assurances. What makes one happy and okay, I can live with that. Another one may not be. So city manager, in navigating this difficult process of herding cats, said, I'll take all 5's assurances and what makes you comfortable to move forward with such a deal, and presented it to the church. And the church came back in a negotiation with city leadership and checked some things off, accepted some things, other things, and they got back to, what they were fine with, and Jennifer presented it to council, and council had the first reading and came back, and three votes were okay with the level of assurances, 2 wanted more. Remember, okay to that point, it's the assurances where we got off the rails. There wasn't enough assurances. So what's in the deal as we sit here today is probably what needs to make sure we understand, right? So the $1.375 million, which everybody said no, but it needs to be more assurances, that's attached to it. The assurances that are in writing, according to a site plan and according to the contract, is number 1, the building has to be completed in development within a 5-year period, and it's not, the term in the contract isn't 5 years, it's actually a physical date, because we never know how long these processes take. We could take 6 months, 8 months, and all of a sudden now it's not 5 years, right? So it's an actual date. At the time of the first reading, it was about 5 years. They have 5 years to not only complete the development of the project, but to receive an occupancy license stating that they're ready for business. At that point that an occupancy license is issued is when that deed to the property would be transferred. They would, just paying the money and signing a contract, they would not receive the deed to that property. South Garden Avenue would stay in possession of the city until the building's development is completed and the occupancy license was issued. The second assurance was thrown in only because if paid attention, if you're into construction and projects, especially capital projects, concrete's up 400%, rebar's up almost 400%. It's hard to find labor for big jobs. So that timetable in doing something, I've been told that their hopes are 2 years, 2.5 years, with the unknowns and constructions and inflations. There was a little bit of an understanding of giving them, it's more than I was hoping for. I was somewhere in that 3.5, 4.5 year range. In negotiations, they came back with 5. So 5 years. They also have 2 1-year contingencies that they can purchase if after 5 years they're not completed for whatever reason and an occupancy license is not issued. For $300,000 on that first day after year 5, the charge is $300,000. They can purchase an extension. If they choose not to, the road's still ours. The deed never transfers, and the contract's null and void, right? $300,000. They then have, that's year 6. There's the actual date, not a year, but they have 1 more contingency for $300,000. They only have 2 options that they can purchase. An additional $300,000 if they needed that extra year. Safety net is kind of what was been said, but that's it. If it's not done after that, contract's null and void, deed returns back to the city, deed remains with the city, it's never transferred. The next assurance on the list was the legal language in the contract is the majority of South Garden Avenue. So if you draw a line heading north and south down the direct middle of that 60-yard portion we're discussing of South Garden Avenue, and it says the majority. So I don't know what's the majority. If you go 2 inches over, if you go 2 inches east, 3 feet, whatever it is. So from that middle of that Garden Avenue all the way to Fort Harrison has to be an open and accessible park space open from all 4 sides. The majority of Garden all the way to Fort Harrison. That's where it changes from 2017. The park was a lot smaller. This contract and assurance mandated from the majority of Garden had to become a park and the whole way across. The park must be open and accessible, public space on all 4 sides. I did make sure that we understand what does open and accessible to the public mean. There's other parks downtown, and some don't feel that those are open and accessible to all. And what does that mean? This is identified as an open and accessible park. We'll have to make sure that we hold them accountable going forward, that it remains open and accessible if this vote does pass with the numbers. The other thing on a site plan that mandated was the only other thing that could be built on the remaining portion of that developable land is a performing arts sign. The Performing Arts Center is 3 to 4 stories with a covered entrance. Nothing else can be built there. They can decide, okay, we're going to put a 75-story tower for, residential. It has to be according to the site plan, according to this contract, open and accessible park space, and your Performing Arts Center. The Performing Arts Center, according to your site plan, must and can only face the western direction. So the front door and the building orientation must face the west, so face towards the water, towards Fort Harrison. There's no signage on the Court Street side. Signage can only be on the front westward facing side of the building. No signage on Court Street. Must be landscaping down the side of Court Street and down the side of the building. And that's the level of assurances that are on that. I can't speak to the other council members on what their levels of assurances were. I do know that some wanted extra additions of activations of other buildings, wanted to make sure there was a tenant or an occupancy license issued for some other buildings. Somebody wanted a family fun zone open. I don't know timeframes, how that would work out. I asked, can we mandate that this, or can they put in writing that this park and Performing Arts Center remain taxable and remain on the tax rolls? I don't believe that will. I can't speak for that. I think what was rebutted to me was Ruth Eckerd Hall, Mahaffey Theater, they're all formed under nonprofits. They're not taxed. So I don't believe this would. That was an insurance. There's a handful that I requested we didn't get. And that's where we're at. Your final vote will be May 15th. May 15th will be the final vote. I do want to say that, we get a lot of engagement, and it is refreshing, although sometimes it gets off the rails a little bit, but it's refreshing in a sense because if we truly all identify that we need to change this fractured 50-year relation downtown, and it doesn't mean we need to have a best buddy system. It means we need to truly have some sort of working professional relationship or partnership where we work together when we can, and as a city, we work around them when we can. But when a group, it doesn't matter who the group is, owns such a large footprint of real estate, they're not going anywhere. Yeah, you have no options. We have to, right? And some suggest the options are do nothing, right? It's a viable argument. Some suggest they'd rather see properties stay barren and dead. You talk to a lot of the downtown businesses. I have received, Emily's has supported it. Kathy, who owns the whole 400 block on the north side, has submitted a letter of support. Totally supports the project. Downtown Pizza supports the project. Tequila supports the project. Chiang Mai supports the project. Marriott Residence Inn supports the project. Clearwater Marine Aquarium supports the project moving through. But there's just as many, if not more, that are opposed to it. And rightfully so. So again, we're all coming from a very similar place, right? And the similarities are, how do we protect our downtown? How do we move it forward through development and activation for our entire community, not just for an institution? And what does that look like? And that's where the conversation again splits, and you have different strategies on how to accomplish that. And rightfully so. Again, I share the same frustrations. I share the same doubt as so many others do. It's hard because it doesn't matter if it's a bowling team that Mr. Bunker and I are on together, or if we're painting houses together. If there is fractured trust or no trust, it's going to be near impossible to do even the littlest thing. So I think my feeling is you have to somehow find little wins for the city of Clearwater, for the citizens of Clearwater, little wins that it's acceptable, and the church considers it somewhat of a win too. And you slowly start putting those building blocks together to try to move our downtown district forward. And as of right now, we haven't tried that. This is an option. Again, the rug could be pulled out from under us. Nothing could happen, right? And that is okay. This isn't the perfect deal. There is no perfect deal in this. I'm not trying to describe to you that this is a no-brainer, got to be done, because I'm as split as the next person is on this and what it looks like to move forward. I often, tell people I feel like we're in a marriage, a relationship, and I keep trying to force my wife to go to dinner with me or go to see a movie. And I mean it, and I truly have my best foot forward, and I mean it. And by the end of the darn movie, we get in a fight and we go home and nothing's changed. We're back at the same. We need some sort of counseling, right? We need to heal. We both need to heal, and to heal, it takes two willing parties, right? It takes two willing parties. I don't know. Actions speak louder than words. I can't speak for the Church of Scientology. I don't know if, as we stand today, if we truly have two willing parties. I don't know. I believe we have one. We'll find out if we have another. And it takes a level of accountability, right? Accountability to say, I can be better. I've screwed up in this path too. As a city, we're to blame for some of this stuff too in our downtown district. I mean, way back, some of us that have been here for a while, Sunshine Mall. Remember Sunshine Mall? Yeah. So I used to do all my school shopping at Sunshine Mall. We moved Sunshine Mall and built it away from a downtown core, away from the downtown center, and pulled a lot of people away. You then turned around and built a beautiful Ruth Eckerd Hall Performing Center. I don't think we could have picked a further place in Clearwater. It's as far away as we could. We then thought spring training is going to be amazing in Clearwater, and we built a ballpark. We didn't build it downtown. We built it down somewhere else, and not even near the other darn two, right? We then decided that a Clearwater Marine Aquarium would be the thing. We didn't put it downtown. We put it on a residential neighborhood, right? We've done these things to ourselves as well, but we have to be accountable for them. We have to find a way to find out, do we have two parties willing to try to move forward, built on a complete fractured lack of trust, frustrations, borderline anger? I get it. The question is, but now what, right? But now what? And that's where we are. But now what? And we'll find out this contract, if approved, and we have no idea. I mean, I don't even know which way. I can't stand before you and tell you which way my vote's going to go, because this is why I'm going out listening to citizens and speaking to them, because I'm with so many of you. But we need to find out, is there two willing partners? And this is a way to find out on a low risk, possible high reward on moving our city forward through development and activation for the entirety. Again, it's not the greatest deal. It's not the best deal. I'm not standing before you. I again share in your frustrations. I share in your lack of trust. And the only way we can try to move forward is binding contractual obligations and truly hold the other party accountable for mistakes or for misguiding or misleading. Hold each other accountable. And what I can promise you is, as an elected official on the dais, I'm going to keep talking about. I'm going to keep getting around in our neighborhoods, and uncomfortable as this may be for me or for any of you sitting out there, I think it's the only way. Having deep, challenging discussions is the only way to make change. It's the only way to try to move things forward. And believe me, I'm a realist. We may get to a place and say, this emotional wound in our city is not healable. A show of hands. You don't have to speak out. Raise your hand if you think the emotional wound between our city of Clearwater and the Church of Scientology is healable. Is healable. Is healable. Right? Sure. It's not all of us, right? The handful of us that don't believe. They believe this path that we paved is so fractured and so broken that it's not repairable, right? And that's the reality of early on. This decision is not easy on any of our council members. This process has not been easy on any of our staff. But we're going to keep talking about it. We're going to keep pushing those challenging discussions. At the end of the day, we have to find a way to make a best decision for finding ways to develop and activate downtown for the entire. And we're optimistic because this deal could go away and nothing happen. And we're still hopeful and optimistic for downtown. This isn't the end-all be-all. Again, that beautiful Gotham property and Mr. Bunker and other elected officials worked really hard on getting that done. And they put together an amazing deal with a lot of assurances that protect our city and the citizens, taxpayers. That's going to be a beautiful property with a beer garden. And your 420-plus unit condo built on the old City Hall with the Michelin-style restaurant downstairs, that's residents living feet in the streets all day, every day. That's not short-term rentals. Those aren't people just coming to visit. That's going to change the dynamic that we so greatly need downtown, having residential. And then your 16.2 acres of the county buildings in the footprint, we're in discussions every day with the county, ensuring that we sit at the table with the county and making sure that we're a big part in the decision-making process of where those 16.2 acres, how it's developed and where. But we're very, very hopeful that that's a generational changing palette. 16.2 acres at the base of a bridge overlooking the water, connected to the most beautiful beach in the world. So be hopeful and be optimistic whether this deal gets approved or not. I appreciate your patience and for listening. I can take I can take a couple questions. If I don't have the answer, we'll work with staff to get you those answers. Yes, sir.
I would point out, as far as the aquarium goes, the aquarium was going to move part of it downtown back in 2017, which would have been the biggest change downtown that would have made a huge difference. Yeah. Who stopped it? David Miscavige. He didn't want it in his backyard. He killed that project. And then when the aquarium refused to sell that piece of property to Miscavige, he went radio silent, bought up all of these other buildings that he's let sit empty for all of these years. So, that's why there's a little distrust on, dealing with Miscavige. Now, in the meetings, there was discussion of the fact that Miscavige didn't want to put some commitments into writing. He showed you this videotape of how beautiful he's going to make the downtown and how he and Tom Cruise are going to put up a movie theater and entertainment complex. But he hasn't put anything in writing as a commitment. Is that correct?
No, but yes, parts are correct. They did release. It's on what is that? Cleveland Street, Alliance. It did release the video. It does show all that. Is that in writing? That's arguable, Mark. I got you on that. The way you find out if it's in writing or not is you see if building permits have been pulled. Building permits have been pulled all through 600 block. They are currently under construction there. Those 3 historic buildings are currently under construction. Is a family entertainment center, and that's not part of the plans as of right now. Does it happen? I have no idea. Your guess is as good as mine. Is it in writing? No. Is it part of the video that we saw? Yes, but again, it's a video. I don't put much faith in a video. It looks pretty. Disney World looks pretty. It's about activation. Then develop and activate, and you do that contractually through building plans.
And specifically to Garden Avenue, there are assurances that are written in the contract.
Everything I discussed was, and so we don't take up everyone's time. Do you mind if I move on?
No. Yeah, go ahead.
And I'll come back to you. No, yes, sir.
Nice buildings are nice buildings, but that's not the whole activation. It seems like assuring that Clear Sky will be there for long term and that other restaurants near that corner would be there is probably more important than having something on Cleveland Street, because then it moves down the street rather than just Is there anything or is discussion about not just that the building is pretty and fancy, but there's Safety Harbor type restaurants in them?
There has been discussions, but again, I don't necessarily think or know if the church is just deciding who they put in there. They're doing the construction, they're doing the redevelopment. They then put it on a listing like LoopNet. They have, I don't know what that company is on the paper, Highbridge or something. I can read the name. I think it's Highbridge. Is that who it is? Mm-hmm. That is one of the world-renowned marketing groups that goes and finds the type of business that may fit into that space and that style and what's neat for that current mix. So I think that's more where I don't think necessarily I pinpointed. As far as the longer term, I just had lunch at Downtown Pizza with Dan Mahoney, the new owner. He got a 6-year lease, and it's the same ownership group as Tequila's and Clear Sky. So I'm not sure how. I can't speak for Scott and Clear Sky for Tequila's, but all of which are supportive of this project, as well as Chiang Mai, because there were discussions at one point that Chiang Mai was being held to the fire, not being an extended lease. And he's supportive of the deal. So I can't speak to those private ownership deals. But I agree with you in theory. It definitely would help to have some long-term stability in those core businesses for us down there. And we will keep Paita down there. Yes, good point though. Yes, man.
And Tom Cruise made an appearance to support.
No, I've not to my knowledge. I've never asked. I've never requested. I've never heard anything.
None of the meeting.
None of any discussion I've ever had has his name come up other than when Mr. Bunker just said it. Yeah. So I have no care or concern of if it's no.
Is it supporting?
Chris, and now I'll come to you, Kathleen.
I'm not clear. My definition of a performing arts center applies here. However, if my understanding of a performing arts center is something that encompasses all the arts. However, I'm concerned about what is the impact going to be on our performing arts?
Yeah.
The Capitol Theater, Ruth Eckerd, the Sound, Baycare Sound. If this is a performing arts center, are they intend to bring in the same type of entertainment as those three venues?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I've been told no. They're not looking to book venues weekly, nightly on the same scale as Ruth Eckerd Hall or Capitol Theater does, or the Sound for that matter. I've been told it's open for nonprofit organizations, which they do now. I don't know how many take up that offer, but they do offer organizations, nonprofits, to use their services, to use their facilities for free. I think they would continue to do that. And they do performances and plays and dinners, because it's not just a performing arts center. From what I've seen on a rendering, the floor has ability to remove and set tables and be more of a dining, reception, gala, as well as remove them seating and have a performing arts center. One of my requests was, can we make sure that every high school graduation in the area, if they wanted to, had the ability to graduate for free. Wow. They did tell me that their concern was, what does that do to Ruth Eckerd? And I said, you can make a donation to Ruth Eckerd Hall every time somebody takes you up on the offer. I don't know if that'll happen. I drew that out there, but again, one of those assurances. But from what I hear, they are playing nicely in completely different fields of mastery, if that's very safe. Yes, Kathy.
What is some other suggestion for the property somewhere down there? Because I'm not very good with directions, to be honest with you. For an African American memorial, and a garden to go with, just because they too helped build this city, and so to recognize what they did. What about that?
100%. That proposal is the second proposal. It came in an hour before we did our second reading. Council stepped back. We let staff have time. It was at the time proposed as the Mac Dixon Memorial to honor the African-American heritage on that, especially for Mac Dixon. Within 24 hours later, what we found out was Mac Dixon's family found out about it via watching our council meeting, and was completely upset and felt disrespected that they were not even communicated with, yet alone a part of the process. So they've retooled that and kind of shifted the scope of the proposal to more of not just trying to honor the African-American heritage, but to honor more on a historical sense, regardless of race, right? We've heard from, I think, 4 African-American Urban Coalition, the 3Cs Society, and there's a couple more that are not supporting the Save the Garden. It is Save the Garden, and feel free to visit it. I'm not talking about it because I'm not. SaveTheGarden.org, write it down. Feel free to take a peek at it. There are several of our African-American community leaders that aren't in favor of it. They're fighting for their own memorializations in their own certain places in the MLK neighborhood. And actually, many of them tell me is the problem with the original proposal of honoring the African-American history is, from what they tell me, not from me telling you as a historian, is that at the time through segregation, African-Americans weren't allowed downtown, yet alone North Garden was the historical soul of our African-American community, not South Garden where we're at, North Garden. In fact, there was almost a dividing line of the railroad tracks on the other side of Drew Street. So I don't know if history aligns in the same, but it was an second proposal. I don't know how that would work because that's a proposal that's just putting a dollar amount wanting to buy. The road was never for sale. They came, they have the right, the legislative ability to request a vacation of a right-of-way to develop a property because they owned the two connecting to it. So to take a proposal of a vacation or right-of-way and now try to compare it with just a straight purchase of something that was never for sale, I know staff's going to render their opinion, and we'll see where it goes from there. But savethegarden.org, just so you don't think I'm blowing through that. Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to know if anybody's seen what the church plans to do with that whole area. If you haven't, I can show it to you.
Oh, yeah. We have
Actual image of what it looks like.
Yeah, and there's cards here too. Oh, you're talking about the garden.
The actual
All right.
garden, the Performing Arts Center, what they're gonna do, the park in front of it with the fountain and everything's really beautiful.
We have requested the video and presentation to be made before May 15th. I haven't seen they did release a video as George is saying, but that's more for the historic buildings downtown at the Clearwater Councilmember. Yeah, 400 corners, 600, and it doesn't touch on that garden performing arts center. But hopefully at some point we do share for the public, because again, we need to keep bringing the public emotion, right? Anybody else? Yes, ma'am. I'll come back to you.
2 rooms want a garden, so why can't there be some kind of a compromise where a garden is the garden without selling the street? I've done it against Church Scientology. I have a lot of Scientology friends, but I have something against selling a city street. I just do. I don't feel good about it, and it will play a monopoly with streets. How much for my street? I want to buy my street. But I'm just wondering, it sounds like there's other groups that are interested in the garden too. So can we reach some kind of a compromise where there's going to be a garden there, they negotiate together? It still say the city street, but it has some amount of everybody gets a little piece of what they want. This is a great opportunity for collaboration as far as I could see.
Yeah, I mean, not a bad point. If you ask the property owners of both adjacent properties, they want to develop their property. The road is in the way. The overhang in the front door doesn't fit in the plans. This is what they planned since 2017. They're going to present a park with it. The assurance is the majority of that roadway all the way is going to be a park. So to have 2 competing forces of building parks, yeah. But I get what you're saying. And again, it was a vacation of a right-of-way request. This never initiated as we want to start selling our roadways, because that's not the case. Yes, ma'am.
So, is it considered a monopoly to own that much property downtown? And are they continuing?
You and I would probably define that, and the majority are in here.
And are they? So they want to continue to grow and get more and more of downtown.
I can't speak for. I don't want to speak for the church. Well, but if you follow the path that we've traversed to get here, they buy real estate and they have a portfolio of real estate over $1 billion. I don't know when that stops. I don't know what else is even available down there. Right now, there's only the city, the county, the church, and Kathy. Is there any more? And what Daniel sold, so I think we're down to only 4 property owners in our downtown district. And the county's on their way out, so that's going to leave 3. There's nothing. I don't believe there's any legislative laws that keeps any of the Girl Scouts or my Catholic Church from purchasing real estate and to stop them from that. Take one more.
I was just going to point out. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I was going to point out that Scientology announced they were building an L. Ron Hubbard Hall here back in 1993. And they finally filed some paperwork around, I think, 2018, according to the St. Pete Times. And the initial designs, and you can see their earlier designs for the hall, Garden Street remained a working street at that point. It's only now that they've revamped it where they've come back and said, we want the street as well. Because you look at the earlier design of it, there's no valet parking. That's just a working street still there.
Yeah, it's probably not to argue with Zekas. But in 2017, and I have seen that plan and video as well, it does show a roadway, but if you, in actual realistic terms, the park in front of it that it's connected to, that's not realistic. So they either moved and put a different road, or it's an unrealistic rendering, because the road is far closer that you're seeing in 2017. It's far closer to Fort Harrison than where South Garden sits as of today. But I don't know if that was a newly constructed to fit the building plans or if it sat there. But they do have an overhang that overhangs that existing road, and it does have a much smaller footprint of a park and a bigger performing arts center. The plans we saw, according to the new contract and site plan, puts a much bigger park with a little bit of a smaller footprint for the performing arts center. Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to make the point that you have to differentiate between people who happen to be Scientologists who invest in real estate in downtown and around the city. I mean,
I think that's fair.
as opposed to the church
Yeah.
owning the property. And always the St. Pete Times attributes all the property owned by the church and the individual Scientologists as being Scientology property.
I think that's a fair statement, and I probably a year ago would have sat in your very seat and argued that. I think where I sit today, I would probably argue against you, and only and respectfully, and only because if that's true, right? If these are parishioners that do own properties, then why, when we sit in meetings, do we have a discussion about development? Is the church using those properties in a discussion about an entire development plan? So there is some control from the church over what those properties do and if they're developed, and that's evidenced by its having discussions that include those properties, right? Because those people aren't sitting at the table with us. Those people aren't on the phone with us, but their properties are included in a proposal of a development deal. So respectfully, I was with you, and now I think I have a little bit. So I'm not sure. Yeah.
Well, Ms. Cabbage did.
Let's let Mary answer.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Buildings that are being renovated downtown Cleveland. I thought it was the city of Clearwater and church combined
The church.
together, just the church alone
The church owns those. Yeah.
owns it. Okay, good.
The church owns those 3 historic buildings. Okay, I'm gonna run away to the back. I thank you so much. I thank you for being kind to me. Hey, thanks for job. And I forgot to thank our neighborhood staff that are here that work so hard and so late at night for so many different events. So you are appreciated. So thank you. Yeah. Hang on. I'll hang out. I'm not running away yet.